I'm sure that many of you have friends that is completely sold on the Western medical paradigm and would only welcome a health modality that is proven by the scientific method of verifying objective truths. And often how this works is that any drug that's administered or any methodology that's used has to undergo ideally a double-blind test, as well as having enough sample sizes and all of the right experimental conditions to validate whether something works or not. What I've seen over many years, seeing how people approach their own health, as well as taking on patients, is that you have this type of personality that gravitates towards one specialist to another specialist to another specialist. This may start out with a minor issue, and over the years, you see their ailments snowball and they're collecting more and more issues because they're listening to advice of one specialist taking one drug, which creates another side effect, and then they go to someone else, takes another drug, and on and on. And over 5, 10, 20 years, they just end up getting worse and worse. And oftentimes, these are some of the most intelligent individuals in the room, and they're some of the most logical people. They want to see the data, and they do all the research. They understand their ailments by all of the complicated language surrounding their very specific ailment that they have, and what studies have been done on it, what experimental thing have been done in the different research papers, and all of these things. They go really deep into trying to understand from a Western mindset. In the moment they hear something like Reiki or meditation and this and that, they completely discount those aspects because it can't be scientifically proven. The rational aspect of the brain overriding their own internal wisdom and their own internal felt sense experience, because by experience, they're feeling worse and worse, and by going on the same paradigm of belief. But that's completely discounted because all they believe is rationality. And the hyper-rational people oftentimes lives the most irrational lifestyles. Whereas the Western mind seeks to get objective validation of whether something works or not, the Eastern mind actually doesn't really care whether there's an objective reality or not. And very much they're seeking subjective truths. So for them, they're not really looking for scientific studies. Rather, they're looking, okay, let me try this, and if this makes me feel better subjectively, then I'm gonna keep it. If it makes me feel worse, I will discard it. And we can't say that this is illogical. There's actually a lot of logic towards the way they're doing it. And I would argue that if your purpose is for you to feel better, and whether how you feel is very much subjective, you'll get more value from adopting the Eastern perspective. You can still approach your own healing as a scientist, but rather having the sample size of one, which is yourself, and approaching different hypotheses, being open-minded to different treatment modalities, and coming back, having done your own research and trying different methods and saying, is this gonna work for me? Does this not work for me, right? If I meditate for this amount of time under these conditions, does it make me feel better or does it make me feel worse? If I eat this type of food, does it make me feel better? Does it make me feel worse? So one's health journey is very individualized, and I do think the subjective rational approach is much results than the objective rational approach, just because so many forces at play that can manipulate the sample data under the contemporary Western approach to medicine. A lot of lobbyist groups, a lot of different people with agendas to make money at the expense of your own health. A doctor gets paid when you come with an issue, and drug companies get paid when you come with health issues, not when you're completely healthy. So there's already this agency issue in this system that is producing the research. So do consider that. How can you adopt, not to neglect the rational aspect of who you are, but rather how do you approach it with your own subjective, and what is the benchmark you're assessing your energy? So if your benchmark is that you want to feel better, then everything you do should just be based on this benchmark, and everything is fair game. You could be like, move to the countryside, live there for a month and see how that affects you, versus trying different pharmaceutical medicines. However, if your mindset and the sole purpose of why you're doing all this is just to defend the contemporary pharmaceutical narrative, and you're really stuck on just that one idea that everything has to be lab tested, then at the end of the day, you're just trying to convince it to yourself, and you see the results. You've been through this for many, many years. If the frustration isn't enough, then life will keep giving you these signals that things have to change. So I hope that gives you a bit of a perspective on the Eastern and Western approach to self-healing. And if you have any comments, if you'd like to ask any questions, definitely drop us a comment below and follow us for more ancestral wisdom, connecting the ancestral spiritual practices of the East and the West into forming our own healing modality at the Wisdom Tree Institute. Hope to hear from you guys shortly, and we'll talk soon. Take care.